I'm gonna put us on the temple homepage and everybody be able to see us no matter where they are. Let me see who else. Is everybody having a good day? Everybody staying safe and healthy?
That's it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the tough part. Just like this thing is like never ending.
Oh, God.
No matter where they are. Yeah. Everybody up? Okay, you get voices coming from all directions. You guys, either or not, do you guys go out at all?
We can seldom. We go mail a letter, but we have that from Publix. They
Instacart. yeah.
Instacart.
Oh, that's good.
Yep.
That's good. You use that too, Steve?
Yeah, we use Instacart at Publix, or we do curbside delivery from Walmart.
Okay, when you talk on both you and Chuck are on, you get echoey.
I muted myself.
Hi, Gail. Hi, Stan. You can unmute if you want. You can unmute until we start.
Okay.
I wonder if there's minus and there's, if we do that, what do we get? Other
I have
people
no idea.
who do it later on.
Yeah, I mute everybody once we start. Don't worry. Otherwise, you can chit chat until we start.
Hi, guys. How is
How's everybody?
Hi, Gail. Hi.
Hi, Rabbi.
Hi, everybody. Good Shabbos.
Hi.
You guys can all unmute until we get going.
Hey.
I think that when you see that.
Let me.
I want to be a stoic when I grow up, Rabbi.
Okay, cool.
Walk around like.
There's your membership card. I'll trade in my Smokey the Bear card.
Good Shabbos.
No more fun and games.
Yes, yes.
It was very interesting.
Well, thank you very much. I think the secret of stoicism is whatever you're doing that you enjoy, stop it. Stop. Really.
And you know, Rhoda Silver loves everybody.
Hi, Rhoda.
Hi, darling. Hi, everybody.
Hi,
Is he
Rhoda.
Yeah. Hi, Ramala. Katala.
Good Shabbos.
Hello,
Hi, Rita. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Ida. Hi, George.
Hi, Doreen.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Paul, I think I'm having an affair with you. I see you like 14 times a day.
Yeah.
Paul and I have got everything, all these things, I'm telling you. Let's start talking about us.
Gotta turn your thing off. Shabbos, everybody.
That's Rhoda.
Good Shabbos.
That comes from Rhoda's phone usually.
Oh, that eek, eek, eek. That's the theme from Psycho. That's
That,
a
yeah,
very
well, that's the Chuck turn. Steve turned both theirs on and Rhoda's phone sometimes.
Okay. Doreen, did you hear that eek, eek, eek noise you had before? That was the theme from Psycho.
My father took me to see that when I was a kid, and I wouldn't sleep in my room for 3 months.
Most houses of worship do not use that as a theme song.
Not mine. When Chuck and Steve both turn on their stuff together in the same room.
Yeah, mine's off.
What happens? Chuck, turn the sound on.
All right. There it is. Oh, boy.
Not me either.
Fine. Right.
Hi, Dina, wherever you are.
I can't,
Yeah.
you can't
Hi,
get me.
Anna.
Okay.
Hi, Rhoda. Hi, Rita. How are you?
Well, we're waiting. I can do something.
Good evening.
Hi, everybody.
The cancer is coming on now.
Hi, Rhoda. Rhoda and Rita.
And I'm
My
gonna,
two favorite artists.
I'm gonna mute everybody. I'm gonna mute everybody.
Yes.
All right, 1 second. I'm gonna mute everybody.
Who's
So
the
everybody,
big green
I'm
thing?
muting you. This is to turn the cancer and the rabbi on.
The best baby.
Sorry, we're missing what you folks are saying, and it's always very heartening when when Doreen says she's going to mute me.
You're all set, Rabbi. Cancer, you're all
They're
set.
lining up. They're lining up. Okay. I should be able to say something. This Torah portion, we're finishing, we're done with Bamidbar. We're done with the book of Numbers. We're plunging forward into Devarim, which is the 5th book of the 5. And what do we do when we're done with Devarim? We immediately go back and start over again. We have no originality. But I wanna do Kohelet. I know we usually do Ecclesiastes on Sukkot, but I want to do an in-depth study of it. I
One
think
second, you have too many windows open, I think. Too many Zooms open you have.
too many. Okay, Cantor, it's all, I punt to you. Do they punt in soccer?
Page number 13, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Yes. Shalom. Shalom Aleichem, Malakei Hashem. Try to hum. Is that the happy? Being happy now? Okay. Is this mime? Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Shalom Aleichem, Malakei Hashem. Okay, there we go.
A beautiful poem. And now we are going to sing Yedid Nefesh on page number 14.
14.
Yedid Nefesh Ha'akaman Meshocha Eretzoina Ya'otzaveta Kemo Ayar Yakaber Muladarak Ye'amlo Yeduta Bino Fetzu Bekoletam Yainai, Yainai, Yainai Lai, 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 lai. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya 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 la 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 la. Ya
Very nice. All right, 15. Is it 15? All right, I think we're reading silently, page 15. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct.
אשר נשמעתי באבי, אם יבוא אל מנוחתי. Page 16.
16.
שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, מסרו מיום ליום ישועתו, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, מסרו מיום ליום ישועתו.
Okay.
And in the bottom of the page, we sing together, Refu'ahShelemah. ישמחו השמיים, השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותעלה הארץ. ישמחו השמיים, השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותעלה הארץ. יהרם הים, יהרם הים, יהרם הים, יהרם הים, יהרם הים, יהרם הים, יערוס, חי בכל אשר בו ירננו, כל הצייר, לפני אדוני קיבה לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט עבר וצדק, מאמין באמונתו.
All right, continuing now. Are we swinging into the Lecha Dodi or?
Yep, Lecha Dodi.
Okay, Lecha Dodi 21.
Okay, so I woke up this morning thinking on the carpenters. You remember the carpenters?
Are you having some work done?
Yeah, but you remember the two brothers, the brother and the sister?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, לאחד דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לאחד דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וסחור בדיבורך, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת תפילה. לקראת שבת מקובל מלכה, כי מכל המלאכה מראש מקרב לסוכה טוב מעשה למחשב תחילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת לקרלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת לקרלה
Okay, please rise. Come v'simcha. Okay, please be seated. Thank you so much for coming. As I said earlier, this is the Torah portion, the last two Torah portions, Matot Maseh, last two Torah portions in Sefer Bamidbar, in the book of Numbers. And they are strapped together, as I like to say, because this is not a leap year. If it were a leap year, in the secular calendar, the Gregorian calendar, all we get for a leap year is one extra day. For the Jewish calendar, you get your money's worth. You get an entire month. You get 2 months, both of them called Adar. And technically you have Purim twice, but nobody really pays any attention to that second Purim. Anyway, the Torah portion for this Shabbat goes as follows. Ish ki dor neder lat Hashem, lo yachel dvaro kechol hayotze mipiv yaseh. A person who takes an oath, a person who swears that they will do something, cannot abrogate the oath. They have got to fulfill all the terms of the oath. And what the rabbis do, who comment on this particular verse, say, it's not just taking oaths. As a matter of fact, there's an easy way to get out of doing an oath. You say, bli neder. If you say, well, I'm hopelessly addicted to cigarettes, but I'm going to make an honest effort to lose cigarettes, then you say, bli neder. Bli neder means without an oath. That way, if you break the oath, you're not breaking it because you never took it. It's one of those little rabbinical cantor.
I'm going to lose weight.
Yes, and
Bli neder.
Yes, bli neder, I'm going to lose weight right after I finish this cake, because you can't, it's a sin to waste food. Anyway, this whole idea, it's not just making an oath, it's also anything a person says should be true, regardless of whether a person is a private citizen or perhaps a big deal in government. They should nevertheless make a point of saying the truth, because the Torah places great emphasis on words. There is a Jewish tradition that the Torah itself was written with letters of black fire on parchment of white fire. And because of this, we take words very seriously. We are known as the Am HaSefer, the people of the book. And quite honestly, it doesn't look good for a Jewish person in particular, or any human being at all, to swear. To not fulfill, to not do something and then not fulfill it. Don't lie. Lying is a sin. And this applies not only to the words of great rabbis, but also to the words of ordinary people. Back in the early 1800s, simple Jews put a great deal of emphasis on the words of a Rebbe. And if they went to a Rebbe for a blessing and they paid him for the blessing, they were positive that the blessing would take place. In this particular instance, there was a poor couple who were getting on in years. They absolutely positively wanted a baby. And so they went to the Rebbe and they said, Rebbe, please give us a blessing so that we may have a baby. And to their surprise, the Rebbe was not that forthcoming. He said, well, you know, blessings are expensive. And the man narrows his eyes and says to the Rebbe, how much are we talking for a blessing for a child? He says, 50 rubles. He says, 50 rubles? That's more than I make in an entire year. Impossible. I won't pay it. Can you lower it? And the Rebbe says, I'm sorry. If you want me to make a blessing for you to have a child, it will have to be 50 rubles. Well, the couple say, we're not going to pay it. We'll just go home and pray for a baby ourselves. And the Rebbe says, why don't you go do that thing? So they did. They went home, they prayed, and a year after that, God sent them a baby. So you see, just because someone holds a high office, they are responsible to tell the truth, but it doesn't give their truth any more importance than anyone else. There's even a very sad story. Do you remember the famous episode where Isaac's gone, Jacob and Rachel and Leah, they figure it's time to go. They were living with Lavan for about 20 years, more than that, and it's time to leave. So Rachel is not really convinced of this monotheistic thing. She takes along her teraphim. Now, the teraphim were the household gods, and she puts them in her saddlebag, and she puts herself on top of the saddlebag of the camel. Well, Lavan comes, and he's very upset indeed, because somebody has gone and stolen his household gods, his teraphim. And he says to her, are they in your saddlebag? And she says, Papa, you know, I'm a good daughter. When a papa comes into the room, the daughter always stands up, but I can't stand up. There has come upon me the time of the month that is common to women, so I am not able to rise before you. He says, oh, okay. Furthermore, she says, anyone who took any of your possessions, let them die. That is supposedly why she died prematurely. If you go to Israel today, you won't find poor old Rachel in the cave of Machpelah. You'll find her in her own kever, her own tomb, which is farther away. It's very popular with people who have infertility problems. Because we human beings are the only ones who can communicate using words, it becomes even more important that we speak the truth at all times. As a matter of fact, there's a translation of one of the first verses in Genesis that not that man became a living soul, but rather man became a spirit that speaks. And don't misunderstand me. I'm not using man for man's sake only. I'm referring to all of humanity in it. So you've got to be very careful with speaking the truth. There was no less a sage than the Chafetz Chaim, Reb Yisrael Meir Kagan, who was a champion of telling the truth and not gossiping. And he wrote a book called the Chafetz Chaim, which means he who desires life. And he became famous because of it. And in those days, if you were going to travel all over Poland and Eastern Europe in order to give lectures on the importance of telling the truth and not gossiping, you had to take the train. Well, he's on the train one day and he's sitting opposite this other Jewish fellow. And the Jewish fellow says, have you heard of the great Chafetz Chaim? And the Chafetz Chaim, the rabbi himself, he doesn't want to seem proud or conceited or anything. So he says, I hear he's nothing special. He's a rabbi. He's just another rabbi. You know what you can do with all those rabbis. Well, the man sitting opposite him gets extremely upset and says, how dare you insult the great Chafetz Chaim? Why, I myself, he says, am traveling a great distance just to hear the Chafetz Chaim speak. And the Chafetz Chaim does that move, that Jewish move with the hand. He says, he's not such a big deal. I heard other people hear him speak. They said he was no ball of fire. Well, the other Jew gets so upset. He says, how dare you insult the Chafetz Chaim? And he slaps the rabbi on the face. And the rabbi doesn't do anything. He just sits down quietly in his seat. But then they get to the station. And on the station is thick with people and everyone there, Jewish men, women, couple of Gentiles, you never know, sprinkled in the crowd, and they're all cheering, and the Chafetz Chaim waves out the window and they're going, Rabbi, 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 which, as you know, is the appropriate way to greet a rabbi when they come into the room. It never happens to me, but I think it would be very nice. Rabbi, Rabbi. Well, the other man is beside himself. He's apologizing. He's saying, please, Rabbi, forgive me. I would never have laid hands on you. I don't know what came over me. And the Rebbe says, you don't understand, he says. The person you slapped was just a Stam Ben Adam, was just an ordinary person, he says. The persona of the Chafetz Chaim, that's something else. And I'm very careful to keep them apart. So, what is the moral? Don't take yourself too seriously. Always speak the truth. Try not to gossip. Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos. Thank you so much. And we'll proceed now with the davening. Okay, we're going to do the Baruch Hu. Okay. You know, it's a very good thing the cantor and I took mime classes. Otherwise, we wouldn't know what we were saying. Okay, the Baruch Hu, which you'll find on page 28.
You're muted.
Oh, we're
Cantor,
unmuted?
unmute yourself.
Okay, the cantor is muted?
Yeah, I can't unmute him. He has to do it himself.
He's a mutant? Okay. Okay, I think we're standing up for the Baruch Hu.
Barechu et Adonai Yamevona.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vohed.
Baruch Adonai Yamevona. Leolam Vohed.
Amen. All right, light and darkness. This is the lower left on 28. A very nice responsive reading. Light and darkness, night and day, we marvel at the mystery of stars. Together, moon and sky, sand and sea, we marvel at the mystery of sun. Twilight, high noon, dusk and dawn. Though we are mortal, we are creation's crown. Flesh and bone, steel and stone, we dwell in fragile temporary shelters. Grant steadfast love, compassion, grace. Sustain us, God, our origin is dust. Majesty, mercy, love endure. We are but little lower than the angels. Resplendent skies, sunset, sunrise. The grandeur of creation lifts our lives. Evening darkness, morning dawn. Renew our lives as you renew all time. Amen. All right.
ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, את חי וקיים, גם אם לא חלינו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני, אמר לי ברבים. אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, אשכחנו וקומנו, תשיח בחוקך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. תהיה בחיינו ואורך ימינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגה יומם בלילה ואהבת קל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני ופעמו Israel.
Amen. Page 30, we cover the eyes. Shema
Israel. Adonai Eloheinu. Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Li'olam Voed. Let's read the English. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. These words which I command you this day you shall take to heart. Teach them diligently to your children. Recite them at home and away, night and day. Bind them as a sign upon your hand and as a reminder above your eyes. Inscribe them upon the doorposts of your homes and upon your gates. Reading silently from the bottom of 30 to the top of 31.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר אנוכי הוצאתי אתכם ממצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמן אמת ואמונה כל זאת וקיים עלינו כי הוא אדוני אלוהינו בין זולתו ואנחנו ישראל We are in the middle of the page 32, ready to sing together Mi Chamocha. Ya lai la lai la lai, ya lai la lai lai, ya lai la lai la lai, ya lai la lai, ya lai la la lai, ya la 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 lai. Ay lai la 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 lai, ya la 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 lai. Mi Chamocha, aheli Madonnai. Mi Chamocha, nehilar bakodesh. Norate ilo todo se felle, norate ilo todo se felle. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ay ay la 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 la, ya la la la, ay la 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 la, ya la la la, ay la 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 la, ya la la la. Malchutecha Rabbanecha Oke Arayam Libnei Moshe Seri Arove Amru Adonai Imloch Le'olam Va'ed Yalai la 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 Yalai la la Yalai la 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 Yalai la la Ay la 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 Yalai la la Ay, la, 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 ay, la, 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 la. ונאמר כי פרעון היד יעקב, וגיאלו יד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גל ישראל.
Amen. All right, on 33, as always, we'll think about the folks we know in need of healing. We're thinking about the families who are suffering from COVID. And we also pray for the scientists who are working very hard to develop a vaccine and hopefully a cure. Help us, let's read together. Help us, Adonai, to lie down in peace and awaken us again, our sovereign, to life. Spread over us your shelter of peace. Guide us with your good counsel. Save us because of your mercy. Shield us from enemies and pestilence, from starvation, sword, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, O God, who watches over us and delivers us, our gracious and merciful ruler. Guard our coming and our going. Grant us life and peace now and always. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Praised you, Adonai, who spreads the shelter of peace over us, over all his people Israel, over Jerusalem and the entire world. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, Baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch Shemo.
Aporei sukat shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim, v'al kol haolam kulo.
Amen.
Sorry, Doreen, do we have any names? We're just thinking about everybody. Again, just keep the names in your mind, and we do pray that all should have Refu'ahShelemah. And sadly, also, the bereft family should have some nechama, some consolation. Continuing now on page 34.
ושמרו עיני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריתונה. ושמרו עיני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריתונה. והנה אומר מלך ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, ושמרו עיני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריתות עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני, את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו עיני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריתות עולם. וביום השביעי שבת בי נפש, שבת בי נפש, שבת בי נפש, ושמרו עיני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריתות עולם.
All right, please rise for the Amidah.
יתגדל ויתקדש שם רבה,
Amen.
ועלמא דיברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, וחיי כל דוריותיך, וחיי כל בית ישראל. ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמך רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה, יתברך, יתברך, וישתבח, ויתפאר, ויתרומם, ויתנשא, ויתהלל, ויתהלל, שמי קודשה, אלא מכל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבקתה ונחמתה, תאמינה בעלמא, ואמרו אמן.
The Amidah 35B to 38. When you're done, you may be seated.
Shalom. הוא יעשה שלום עליהם ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל אמן יעשה שלום יעשה שלום שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל יעשה שלום יעשה שלום שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל יעשה שלום יעשה שלום שלום עלינו כל ישראל
יעשה שלום,
יעשה שלום יעשה שלום שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל יעשה שלום יעשה שלום שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל יבוא שלום עלינו יבוא שלום עלינו יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם יבוא שלום עלינו יבוא שלום עלינו יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם סלאם עלינו ועל כל העולם סלאם שלום סלאם עלינו ועל כל העולם סלאם שלום עוד יבוא שלום עלינו עוד יבוא שלום עלינו יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם.
Okay.
48.
48.
Yingadan v'yitkada shemeva ve'alma divrachirute ve'yamlich malkute ve'chaye kol ve'yom echol ve'chaye echol ve'tisrael b'hagala u'bizman karit ve'imro amen ve'ishmera mevorak Yola Maya, Idbarak, Idbarak, Veishtabak, Veitman, Veitromak, Veitrasel, Veitaldar, Veitale, Veitalal, Shmeite Kudeshat, Lela Mikol Vichata, Shirata. ושבחתה בלחמת מירב בעלמה ושבחתה בלחמת מירב בעלמה ואמרו אמן יתקבל אצל הכל ומעטות בכל ישראל כאדם ממון דיבישמיה אדם ממון דיבישמיה ואמרו אמן יש למה רבה בשמיה מקיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, והכל ישראל.
All right. Next is the Aleinu, page 51. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לדור הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמענו במשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו בכל המולד, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומולים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא בשמיים ובארץ ומשה יקרו בשמיים עמם ושכינתו ורובעי מרומים הוא אלוהינו אלוהינו ומלכנו את זולתו ככתוב בתורתו אתה היום וילדת היום השבות לבביך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ נדבק עלינו נאמן והיה אדוני ומלך על כל הארץ היום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
All right, the Mourner's Kaddish. If you're not saying Kaddish, you may be seated. Mourner's Kaddish on page 52. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, amen.
Amen.
Yalma divra chirutei v'yamliach malchutei. V'chayei chon v'yimei chon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. V'agalo v'zman kariv v'yimru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach li'olam ulmeil maya. Yitborach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudasha b'richu. V'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Damiran bi'alma v'yimru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. Chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru, amen. Ose shalom b'mramav, v'yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimru, amen. All right, a few words from our beloved president, Ms. Rita Fleming-Klein.
Hello, everyone, and good Shabbos. I want to give special thanks to Doreen Christopher, Carol Schroeder, Laura Durant, Sherry Field Almaraz, and Irene Radish for pitching in to get the work for the high holidays done. There's so much to do, and all of you have helped so tremendously. There's also a thank you this week in this week's bulletin to all of you as well. It means the world that that section of work gets done. And anytime anyone wants to volunteer, we're all volunteers. So you're welcome to volunteer anytime you like. It's so well appreciated. I was thinking about something I heard this week in relation to our congregation. And it said something like to think about the impact that our actions have on each other. And I remember the first time I walked into Temple Shalom, and the impact of the kindness and the warmth really grabbed me. And I knew I wanted to be in Temple Shalom. I think a lot of you have experienced the same thing. But I must tell you that even in this difficult times, on Zoom and in the classes and in everything all of you do and all of the members of our temple family do, the impact that you have on others, on all of us, makes our temple family all the more special. So I send you a hi, Aunt Bethy. I send you a hug right back for the big hug that you extend to me and to every other temple member. I wish you a good Shabbos, and I look forward to seeing you again on Zoom. And I'm very hopeful, and I know that we'll be together again, one-to-one and live. I don't know when, but I know that we'll be together again. I wish you all a sweet Shabbos.
Amen. Good Shabbos. Okay. All right, Chazan. Okay.
Cantor, unmute yourself. Cantor, unmute yourself. Cantor.
Okay.
Okay.
It's okay. You.
Don't worry.
Don't worry, Doreen, be happy. Okay, don't worry. Just a token for you to remember in our class this morning, we did have a little talk. I'm not going to be long about, but today is the commemoration, actually it's tomorrow, of the 76th anniversary, sad anniversary of the bombing of the AMIA in Argentina. The AMIA was it's like the Jewish Federation, the central agency that was cultural, was religious, was the center of the social work of the Jewish community of, in that moment, 200,000 people, Jewish people that they were living in Argentina, and yet we don't have justice. There is only one person that was in jail for a time and then is not there. There are, I don't know how many presidents that they were promising justice for that. There were some people that they were investigating the situation, and they were murdered. One was a prosecutor 5 years ago, and we don't know exactly what was going today on. And at 9:53 in the morning, I was able to watch the commemoration in Argentina. That was very touching because it's the first time that is doing by kind of Facebook. You can try to find out and to watch, because instead of being able to see on the street faces that they usually are people with the faces of the people that they were murdered in that time. They were just the image of the pictures of those people at the age where they were murdered, and they were like moving and coming to you. And then all the family members of each one of the victims, they were saying some things. Yeah, and I say to you that one of the victims was a 5-year-old child. 5-year-old child that was walking with the mother just to go to to the ENT that was like two blocks apart of the AMIA. And the mother was holding the hand, and then the bomb bombed, and the child went up through the air, and the mother was shot there without the child. And she was telling that she's struggling now because she start to forget a little bit the face of the child, or she start to forget a little bit the smell or the sense of the touching, yeah, of his own son, that in this moment he would have been 31. And she said, I was the one who's supposed to not be today and not him. And so it's the only thing that I can do is one hand what I was telling this morning. Besides all the things, all the bad things that happens in the world, and all the bad things that you can think that in this country are going on, there is still justice in this country, or at least in mostly there is justice. So, and a country without justice is not a country. And yeah, because they are tzedek tirdov is one of the things that we have in the Torah, is one of the commandments that we have pursued, and we have run to justice, to have justice. If we cannot have justice in this world, and we are not talking about divine justice, we are talking about the justice among people, we cannot say to ourselves that we live in peace. Yeah, Argentina was one of the countries that always was neutral, and the Jewish community was able to force and to make a lobby to the country, and this is not so far away. I would say that 2 or 3 years ago, just to say that Hezbollah is a terrorist group, because before that, they wouldn't say that they are terrorists. They can say they are bad people, but not terrorists. And we have a lot of countries in the world that they think that Hezbollah, for example, is not a terrorist group. Hezbollah was one of the groups that they were in the bombing of the Israeli embassy in 1992, and apparently Hezbollah was also financing with Iran the bombing of the 1994 Jewish Federation, AMIA, in Argentina. So a sad token for the Shabbat. Now we are going to finish happily singing Adon Olam, but well, sometimes we have to remember, because remembering is to bring people at least the memory alive. Yes, and it's our obligation to remember. So these kind of acts, they will not happen in other places or in other moments. Okay, Adon Olam on page 54, if I don't, yeah, 54. One other thing, tomorrow, I am not sure I will be at home to do the Havdalah. So we are going to pass a previous Havdalah, yes, a general Havdalah, or one of the 2 songs that I did in the beginning. So you can do the Havdalah by yourself, and I am going to be with you because I have a family situation. Happy, not bad, but I am not going to be at home at that time, so I cannot connect to Zoom in that moment. Okay, so page number 54. Adon Olam Asher Malach V'Terem Kol Yetzir Nivra Le'et Tasam כסוכות, עשי מלך שמו נקרא, עשי מלך שמו נקרא. I want to see you clapping. באחרי ככלות הכל, לכבודו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא אוהב, והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא אחד מאשי לעם שלו להכבירה, בלי ראשית להקליט, ולא אף ועמיסה, ולא ועמסה, והוא בלי חי גואלי, בסור כבלי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומעשי, ונתוסי ביום נקרא, ונתוסי ביום נקרא, ויעביר אפילו ואישה והעירה, והיא ברוכי גביעתי, אדוני אלוהי רע, אדוני אלוהי רע. Those dogs, they behave so good. They should go to shul sometimes. So let's have our last blessing.
Right.
יברכך אדוני וישמרך.
May the Lord bless you and keep you.
יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך.
Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you.
יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום.
May the Lord turn his face unto you and grant you peace. We'll say Amen.
Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, hey, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 shalom, Shabbat, 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 shalom, Shabbat, 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 shalom, Shabbat, shalom. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom.
Shabbos. Also, one more quick thing, because we finish Sefer Torah, we finish one of the books of the Torah tomorrow. We have to say Chazak, Chazak, V'nitchazek. Chazak,
Chazak, V'nitchazek.
Strengthen, strengthen, and we strengthen ourselves through the study of Torah. Amen.
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 Great seeing everybody.
Everybody's unmuted. You can talk to
Good
each other.
Shabbos, everybody.
Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have
Shabbat.
a proposal. I have a proposal.
Yes.
A proposal. It was a movie that was a kind of a proposal. Do you remember the movie? With,
Proposal?
yes, I have one to Rachel Spirer.
Spirer.
Yeah, I have one, and I think that all of you will like that decent proposal. Maybe next Shabbat we can unmute her and she can sing with the rabbi and with me during the service. Maybe. Is that an indecent proposal that we would like to have?
If you're going to unmute her, you have to clear it with Mel.
Oh.
Okay, so yes or not?
It sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I would love to.
Okay, next
I would
week,
love to.
Rachel is going to sing,
With you.
going to sing with
With
us.
you.
Yeah. Okay, so Doreen, you are going to be a little bit more crazy with the buttons.
Yes, I won't sing, I promise. You don't want me to sing.
Oh,
Yes, we do.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah, no.
Okay, everybody has a good Shabbos.
good Shabbos.
Shabbos,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye-bye. Nemo is there,
Have a
Nemo
good week.
also, okay.
Yes,
Shabbat
glad you
shalom.
got fishy.
Bye, Viv.
Bye. Good Shabbos.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay.
Okay, I'm ending it. Bye.